We commiserate po and condole with the family and loved ones of former President Benigno Simeon Noynoy Aquino III as we extend our condolences on his untimely demise. We're grateful for the former president for his contribution and services to the country, and we ask our people to offer a prayer for the eternal repose of the former chief executive. Rest in peace, Mr. President. Binabalita po natin na dumating kaninang pasado alas 7 ng umaga ang 2 milyon na doses ng Sinovac. Sa latest batch ng Sinovac, 1.6 million doses ay binili ng national government, samantalang ang 400,000 doses ay binili ng IPN Biotech para sa lungsod ng Maynila. Ito ang pang-apat na batch ng Sinovac vaccine sa dumating sa bansa. As of June 22, 2021, halos 9 na milyon or 8,928,249 doses ang na-administer sa buong bansa. At noong Martes nga po, June 22, nasa 336,843 total doses ng COVID-19 vaccines ang ating na-administer. Kaya inasahan na maabot natin ang 500,000 daily vaccination rate natin sa target. Sa Quezon City, as of June 23, 2021, 8 a.m., nasa 526,542 or 33.97% ng 1.7 million Quezon City residents ang nakatanggap na ng first dose. At noong June 22, nakapag-administer ang Quezon City ng 41,826 doses na beat ng Quezon City ang sarili niyang record twice. Sa Manila, nasa 35,572 ang kanilang nabakunahan noong Martes, June 22. All-time high po yan. Talagang parami ng parami ang nababakunahan. Masasabi natin na on track po tayo na maabot ang ating population protection or containment sa huling bahagi ng taon. Ulitin ko, 2 doses dapat. Libre po ang mga ito. Kailangan makakuha ng parehong dose para magkaroon ng pinakamataas na proteksyon laban po sa COVID-19. Kaugnay nito, mali ang projection ng isang UK think tank na ang Pilipinas sa huling bansa sa Asia na makakamit ang herd immunity. Mukhang hindi nila na-update o hindi na-factor ang pagdating ng bulto-bultong bakuna natin. Nagsimula tayong ng kakaunti dahil sa limitadong supply ng Sinovac at AstraZeneca. Ngunit tandaan natin na tuloy-tuloy na ang pagdating ng mga supply ng bakuna. As of June 24, 2021, ayon sa NTF, mahigit 16 na milyon or 16,205,876 doses na ang dumating. Kasama na rito ang 2 milyong Sinovac doses na dumating kaninang umaga. Sa kaugnay na bagay, sa delayed delivery ng 50,000 Sputnik V Component 2 vaccines, nakatanggap ang National Task Force ng formal na komunikasyon mula sa Russian Direct Investment Fund na nag-inform na magkakaroon ng delay dahil sa ongoing upgrades at latest developments sa Sputnik V. Naabisuhan na ng NTF ang mga local governments na ma-reschedule ang pagtanggap ng second dose ng kanilang constituents. Wala man po dapat ipakabahala. Ayon sa Health Technology Assessment Council or HTAC, kanilang nirekomenda na ang pagtanggap ng 2 doses ay at least 21 days apart. Nagpahayag din ang Gamaleya Institute sa pamamagitan ng Russian Direct Investment Fund sa ating Food and Drug Administration ang kanilang nais na amindahan ng interval period ng 2 doses ng Sputnik V mula sa minimum na 21 days at gawin itong 90 days. Pinag-aaralan na ng FDA ang request na ito. Kasama sa mga lugar na bibigyan prioridad sa pagbabakuna, liban sa NCR Plus, ay ang Plus 10 na tinatawag. So meron po tayong NCR Plus 8 Plus 10. Ano po yung Plus 10? Ito po ang Bacolod, ang Iloilo, ang Cagayan de Oro, ang Baguio, ang Zamboanga, ang Dumaguete, ang Tuguegarao, ang General Santos, ang Naga, at ang Legazpi. Ang naging basehan ay ang tumataas nilang mga kaso or surging cases, ang kanilang pagiging highly urbanized at dense environment, at kanilang kontribusyon sa regional or national economy. Samantala, kasama ko kanina umaga sa Lakeshore Mega Vaccination Hub sa Taguig City at kahapon sa Soler Vaccination Hub sa Parañaque City ang mga medical experts mula sa Israel Ministry of Health. Sila ay naririto para mag-obserba at magbahagi ng kanilang insights kung paano pa natin mapapaganda ang ating COVID-19 response, mitigation at vaccination strategies. Tignan po natin ang ilang mga larawan. Itong larawan po ito ay kahapon sa Soler, no? Ang kanilang feedback po, naku, pinakamagandang vaccination site ang nakita nila sa Soler. Tapos, ang mga susunod na larawan po, sa Soler pa rin po yan. Ito po yung area ng kanilang registration. At ito naman po yung press conference na ginawa ng ating mga Israeli mga kaibigan kanina po sa Taguig. COVID-19 updates naman po tayo. Ito ang ranking ng Pilipinas sa mundo ayon sa Johns Hopkins. Number 24 pa rin po tayo sa pagdating sa total cases. Naku, mabuting balita po to. Naging number 28 na lamang tayo sa active cases. Bumaba po ang ating active cases, kaya tumaas ang ranking natin. Number 131 po tayo sa cases per 100,000 population at number 90 po tayo sa case fatality rate na 1.7%. Meron tayong 4,353 na mga bagong kaso ayon sa June 23, 2021 datos ng DOH. Salamat sa ating medical frontliners dahil lalo pang tumataas ang ating recovery rate. Ito ay nasa 94.6%. Nasa 1,298,442 na ang bilang ng mga nakarecover. Samantalang malungkot naming binabalita na nasa 23,928 ang binuwi ng buhay. Nakikiramay po kami sa mga naulila. Nasa 1.74% ang ating fatality rate. Puntahan naman po natin ang kalagayan ng ating mga ospital. Puno na buhok ating mga ospital. Well, sa NCR po, ang ating ginagamit na ICU beds ay 44% lamang. Ang ginagamit nating isolation na beds ay 39% lamang. Ang ward beds ay 33% lamang at ang ventilators ay 29% lamang. Sa buong Pilipinas, ang ating ginagamit na ICU beds ay 57% lamang. Ang isolation beds ay 47% lamang. Ang ward beds ay 44% lamang at ang nagagamit na ventilators ay 36% lamang. Now, makakasama naman natin po muli si Dr. Father Nick Austriaco. Sir, actually, talagang kayo lang po ang nagbigay sa akin ng eksplanasyon at sa buong Pilipinas kung bakit importante yung tinatawag ninyong containment at saka population protection. Ngayong mayroon pong mga ilang lugar na nagsusurge na pinangakuan na rin natin na mabibigyan ng prioridad at mas maraming bakuna, pursuant do sa sinatabi nating NCR plus 8 plus 10, pakisabi po, no? Unang-una, no? Tama ba ho na patuloy pa rin nating bibigyan ng prioridad ang Metro Manila plus 8? At pangalawa, bagamat talagang kasama naman po sa strategiya ang pagbibigay ng mas maraming bakuna sa mga areas na nagsusurge, ano pong payo ninyo dun sa mga syudad at probinsya na nagkakaroon ng surge sa mga nakalipas na araw? Dr. Father Niconar Austriaco, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, Sec Hari. So what I will do, thank you again for the kind invitation to return to the Malacañang press briefing. So when I prepared this press briefing yesterday, it was the NCR plus 8 plus 8. I've been talking about the NCR plus 8 plus 8 for the last week, and I'm grateful to see that the Philippines has adopted an NCR plus 8 plus 10. And let me explain. So what I would like to do today is to speak about the long-term vaccination strategy for our country. And I would like to consider the predictions that some experts have made that the country will reach herd immunity in 2023. And I want to ask, is this something we should really be worried about? Now, I'm going to review some of the material I presented last week. So we have to understand the virus's attack strategy. So if we're going to protect ourselves, we have to know the enemy. How does the enemy attack the Philippines? And so this is the pandemic curve for our country. And as you've noticed, you may not have noticed, but in the surge in August last year, there are actually two peaks, one for the NCR, and then immediately after there's the provinces. You see the same thing now. So you see the NCR again, and we have the provinces. And what I pointed out last week is that the variants will spread around the country like ink in a glass of water, but they always enter the country in the NCR. And we see this now happening 3 times. With each new variant, we see the same pattern. So in terms of our exit strategy, the first is we must protect the Filipino people from new variants of COVID-19, especially the Delta and the Delta Plus. And I was so grateful to hear yesterday that the province of Cebu has decided to also embrace the 10-day hotel quarantine, which the data shows is 99.7% effective. Now, for the exit strategy, principle number 2 is we must build a COVID-proof wall around the NCR. And so this is the pattern. It starts at the NCR and moves to the provinces. So if we vaccinate the NCR, we prevent the virus from traveling to the provinces. And this is especially important now because we are building a wall around the Philippines by vaccinating the NCR +8. And so there were different exit strategies at first, and the government, of course, chose NCR +8. And what I'd like to emphasize is that the NCR +8 strategy does not mean excluding the rest of the country. So it means prioritizing the NCR +8, but there are still ongoing vaccinations to vaccinate the most at risk in the rest of the country. And the distribution now, from what I can get from the data, is about 65% to the NCR +8 and 35% to the rest of the country. So we've talked before about containment and herd immunity. So containment is 40% to 50% of the population, and herd immunity 70% to 80%. And containment will protect us against future surges. It will allow further reopening, and it will allow no mass gatherings of vaccinated persons. And I pointed out that outbreaks will still occur, but they will not spread rapidly. So the surge potential of the pandemic will be severely diminished. And the experience of Israel is that if you get the daily attack rate below 1 in 100,000, then you can begin to remove the mask. And this would mean about 100 new cases per day in the NCR. And as of last week, we are currently around 700 or 800 new cases per day. Now, herd immunity is the highest level of protection. It protects the unvaccinated from the virus. It will starve the virus and basically end the pandemic. And as I keep pointing out, we have to build herd immunity at every single level of our society. So herd immune families, herd immune businesses, barangays, and municipalities. So how long will it take? A 250,000 doses per day, sometime in September or October. Now, I have been a guest at the daily briefing this past week for the National Vaccination Operations Center. And I have to say, you know, as someone who is not a member of the government, I've been incredibly impressed with the professionalism and the efficiency of the operation that is being undertaken right now to vaccinate the country. And I congratulate Secretary Vince Dizon for his handling of the rollout. And based on the numbers, some of which were described by Spokesperson earlier in this briefing, it is really attainable at this time that we will reach containment, if not herd immunity, in the NCR +8 by Christmas. And this is something we do together. And if we attain containment, then we can relax minimum health standards. If we do herd immunity, this is where no masks, no social distancing, no crowds, no limits, no testing, no quarantine. And here it's important to understand, once you attain herd immunity in the NCR +8, then travelers entering and leaving the NCR do not need to be tested or quarantined. In the same way today, we do not test or quarantine people for measles because we already have herd immunity for measles in Manila, in the entire country. And I pointed out last week that we should encourage our kababayans to imagine a no-mask Christmas. But here is the question: what happens after Christmas? And this is where, if you notice, I talked about the NCR +8 star, because the star indicated that the second number was flexible. And as you heard from Spokesperson, it's going to be NCR +8 +10. And this is the exit strategy. You have to repeat the focused targeting of vaccinations to build containment. And so the idea here is we go to the next step. We will vaccinate the hottest provincial areas. And you see where I prepared this last night, I imagine it's NCR +8 +8. It could have been NCR +8 +10 or +12. And it depends on the available vaccine supply in the national government's stockpile. And so this would be the hottest areas. Now, it does not mean, again, we're excluding the rest of the country because there will be parallel vaccinations outside the NCR plus 8 plus 10, again, to cover those most at risk. And so the target date for the NCR plus 8 is Christmas, and the NCR plus 8 plus 10 in this case would be Easter of 2022, but depending upon which urban areas are included in the plus 10. Now, what about the rest of the country? So a lot of people are saying, what about the rest of the country? It's important to understand that there's something unique about the Philippines, and it's that our urban and rural populations are about 50% each. So there are 50%, 55 million urban Filipinos, and 57 million rural Filipinos. And this is the thing, with the NCR plus 8 plus 10 exit strategy, Filipinos living in our rural areas would be at low risk for COVID-19 even if they're not vaccinated. And this is important to see the strategy of this approach, because vaccinating the cities would protect our rural kababayans from the virus. Why is that? Because the virus will pass through the cities to enter the rural provinces. They cannot travel from India to a very remote part of the Philippines. They must pass through the NCR, and then from the NCR to one of the urban areas in our province, and then from there to the rural area. So if you build a COVID-proof wall around the cities, it is actually a wall around our entire country. And I think this is so important to emphasize, that to focus on the urban areas, to focus first on the NCR plus 8, then the NCR plus 8 plus 10, is to build a wall around the entire country, because it will allow even our non-vaccinated kababayans to live safely, because they are protected by those who live in the cities who are themselves vaccinated. And so in effect, our immediate goal today as a country is cities-wide herd immunity. It's not the country-wide herd immunity, but the cities-wide. So when people will ask, well, what is the percentage of Filipinos that need to be vaccinated? Yes, as the UK experts pointed out, we have 112 or so million people, and 70 to 80% of those have to be vaccinated. But you can see we will go far in vaccinating a herd immune. If we can build herd immunity in the 55 million Filipinos who live in our cities, that will go far in protecting the rest of the country. And so the rural Philippines will have a low surge risk. We can manage that while everyone is getting vaccinated. So we will not stop at the NCR plus 8 plus 10. We will, of course, continue to vaccinate, but there will be very low surge risk, because there will be no virus coming from Manila or coming from Zamboanga to infect someone who's living in the rural parts of Mindanao. And if the ADAR for these regions is less than 1 in 100,000, we could even consider relaxing minimum health standards, because they are already protected from the rest of the country. So you notice, even without countrywide herd immunity, so countrywide herd immunity is probably 2023, but even without that, many regions of our beloved country will return to the old normal, hopefully by the middle of next year. Again, there is a big question mark here, because this is all contingent on us preventing the Delta or the Delta Plus variant from entering the country. This must be the primary goal of everyone in the country right now, is to prevent the entry of that. And this is our hope and our prayer. Let us do it together. Thank you so much.
Yes, bago po tayo magpatuloy, yung ating plus 10 po refer to cities, no? So, I repeat po, yung ating plus 10 ngayon ay Bacolod City, Iloilo City, Cagayan de Oro City, Baguio City, Zamboanga City, Dumaguete City, Tuguegarao, General Santos City, Naga City, and Legazpi City. Lahat po yan ay mga syudad. Okay, so maraming salamat, Father. As usual, napaka educational nung inyong presentation at napakadali pong maintindihan. No? So yan po yung sagot doon sa strategiya na ginagawa natin. Hindi po natin sinasabi na less important yung mga ibang lugar, kaya lang importante po talaga para makamit ang containment sa buong Pilipinas na makontain natin kung saan talaga matataas ang kaso ng COVID to begin with. No? Pero gaya ng sinabi ko kanina, ang ating polisiya ngayon po is to give priority to not just Metro Manila, not only the 8 original areas, ngayon po meron na tayong plus 10. 10 cities na nakaka-experience po ng mga surges, including Iloilo City. Okay, punta na po tayo sa ating open forum. Yusek Roque, go ahead please.
Yes, good afternoon, Secretary Roque. Question from President Catarong of SMNI News. Hinihiling po ni Cagayan de Oro 2nd District Representative Rufus Rodriguez sa pamahalaang nasyonal na magpadala ng higit na 20 ventilators sa CDO sa gitna ng patuloy na pagdami ng mga pasyente sa mga ospital kasabay ng pagtaas ng kaso ng COVID-19. Ano ang tugon dito ng palasyo at ano-anong tulong ang ipapakaloob ng national government sa Cagayan de Oro at iba pang parte ng bansa na may matataas na kaso?
Well, dalawang specific tulong na po, no, na included na po ang Cagayan de Oro sa plus 10. So they will be given more vaccines. Tapos po yung hinihinging ventilators, wala naman pong problema yan dahil mababa ang actual usage natin ng mga respirators. So kukunin lang natin yung mga respirators na ngayon po ay hindi ginagamit sa ilang mga lugar to augment yung pangangailangan ng mga lugar na merong surges. No?
Thank you, Secretary.
Punta tayo kay Mela Lesmoras, please. Mela. Habang wala pa si Mela, siguro we have another question from Yusek Roque.
Yes, Secretary.
Go ahead, please.
Question from Chris Jose of Remate Online. Reaction daw po sa panawagan ng MMDA na dapat manatili pa rin prioridad ang Kalakhang Maynila sa bakuna laban sa COVID-19 dahil ito ang pinakamadaling magkaroon ng hawahan ng Delta variant. Bukod pa sa Metro Manila, ang sentro ng komersyo, negosyo at pangunahing port of entry.
We agree po with MMDA Chair at saka yung siyensya na pinakita sa atin ni Doc kanina, yan po ang dahilan kung bakit para makontain po yung pagkalat sa buong Pilipinas dahil sentro nga po ang Metro Manila ng hindi lang po ng transportasyon kundi na rin ng kalakhan at saka yung movement ng tao, importante po na makontain muna dito sa Metro Manila kung saan naging pinakamataas talaga naman po ang numero ng coronavirus.
Second question niya, ano daw po ang masasabi ng Malacañang sa pahayag ng ilang senador na hindi nila masisisi ang ilang Filipino na maghaka-haka na malaking racket lang o negosyo ang face shield matapos na ipag-utos si Pangulong Duterte ang mandatory na pagsusuot ng face shield?
Wala po akong alam doon sa racket na tinatawag. Pero alam niyo po, talagang naintindihan ko naman po talaga na napakahirap nitong face shield. Ako po nakasalamin. Pag ako naka-face shield, siguradong nagfa-fog po yan. Napakahirap. Mahirap lalo na doon sa mga nagsasalamin at saka extra cost. No? Pero kinakailangan po paniwalaan natin ang sinasabi ng siyensya. At isa po dun sa study na na-publish po sa Lancet, ito po yung leading medical journal sa buong daigdig at hindi lang sa Pilipinas, ay talagang sinasabi na ang pagsusuot po ng face shield ay nakakatulong, no, na ibaba ang pagbaba ng COVID infection. Ang sabi po ng Lancet, ito na po yung pinaka-prestigyoso at pinaka-kinikilalang authoritative journal, medical journal sa buong mundo. No? Sabi nila, ang pagsusuot ng face shield, 78% reduction in infections. Tapos kapag sinamahan pa ng use of mask, it results in 85% protection. At tapos kapag meron pang 1 meter distancing, a risk reduction of 80%. Tapos kung with every additional 1 meter of separation, more than doubling the relative protection. So yan pong sinasabi ng siyensya. Yan po sinasabi ng mga dalubhasa. Napakahirap naman pong baliwalain na ang sinasabi ng mga nangungunang mga dalubhasa sa larangan po ng medisina at epidemiology.
Opo. Third question niya, patuloy daw po yung pag-question ng ilang senador sa polisiya ng pamahalaan na minamandato ang pagsusuot ng face shield. Para sa ilang senador, dapat daw po kilalanin ng DOH ang mga pag-aaral, particular na yung to wear or not to wear. Optional lamang ang paggamit ng face shields. At may mga bansa naman daw pong nagpapatupad ng either or policy, face shield lang ang isusuot o face mask.
Well, gaya na aking sinabi po, no, nakabase po sa siyensya yan. Bagamat ulitin ko po, naintindihan namin, napaka-inconvenient na magsuot pa ng face shield in addition to face mask. Pero bukod po sa Lancet, meron din tayong pag-aaral na pinagsama-sama po at pinagtukma-tukma dito sa Pilipinas at talaga nagpapakita po na ang pagsusuot ng face shield, ito nga po, 78 reduction. Kung sasamahan ng N95 mask, 96%. Kapag sasamahan ng 3-meter distancing, 96%. 2-meter distancing, 91%, at 1-meter distancing, 82% reduction. So ang suma total, with face shield, face mask, and distancing, 97% po talaga ang proteksyon na binibigay. Punta na tayo kay Pia Ranada, please. Pia Ranada, please.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. Sir, just on the passing of former President Benigno Aquino III. Sir, is Malacañang offering to hold a state funeral for the former president?
I have no information on that po, no? I read the official statement of the president, and again, our continuing condolences to the family of the former President Aquino.
Any plans, sir, of the president to face the nation within the day about this and maybe declare days of mourning? Because this is what GMA did, for example, when Cory Aquino died in 2009.
I have no information, although I will be seeing the president this afternoon for several affairs in the palace. So I will check.
Sir, can you share? Can you share how the president reacted? Were you able to get his personal reaction, his words, upon hearing the news of his death?
Not yet po, because I was attending an event in Taguig, no? The press conference of the Israeli visiting delegation when news broke out of the demise of the former president. But I'll be seeing him this afternoon for at least 5 events.
Right. Sir, I hear that later the president will be meeting with lawmakers on Bayanihan 2. May we know if he called this meeting, what are his concerns, and what position will he be bringing into the meeting?
I can only confirm that there will be a meeting today to discuss both Bayanihan 2 and Bayanihan 3, no, with leading members of both houses of Congress. No? This will occur after the ceremonial signing of several bills again. No? And I know they will be discussing Bayanihan 2 and 3, but beyond that, I have no further information.
All right. And last question, sir. Next week, we will be marking the anniversary of the president's oath-taking, June 30. This will also mark the start of his last year in power. So may we know what will the president's priorities be in his last year in power?
It hasn't changed. It is still ensuring that every Filipino is vaccinated, and his continuing campaign against corruption and prohibited drugs.
All right. Thank you, Secretary.
Thank you very much, Pia. Yusek Roque, please.
Yes, Secretary, question from Chris Jose of Remate for Secretary Roque and kay Father Austriaco. Maaari bang iba ang bakuna na kunin sa first dose at iba naman sa second dose? Halimbawa, ang first dose ay Sinovac habang ang second dose naman ay Pfizer. Pwede ba yon? Ano ang side effects ng pagbabakuna ng magkaibang brand?
Pinag-aaralan pa po yan. No? Wala pa pong konklusyon ang mga dalubhasa.
From
Specifically,
Father
dahil ang
Austriaco?
tanong mo is from inactivated to mRNA. No? So, pinag-aaralan po yan, pero well, I'm not a dalubhasa. Perhaps si Father can share his views, being a molecular biologist. Yung different platforms
So thank you very
daw,
much.
Doc.
Yes. So there are ongoing clinical trials throughout the world that are mixing and matching both inactivated virus with mRNA vaccines or vice versa, or adenovirus and mRNA vaccines. The initial data from the United Kingdom shows that when you mix and match two doses, the side effects are actually more challenging after the second dose than if both doses are the same from the same brand. We are waiting the data for the immune response of the mixed dosing strategy is expected to be published in the next 2 or 3 weeks. At that point, we will be able to tell whether or not there's a change in the efficacy of the vaccine strategy depending if you mix or match. And at that point, the FDA of the Philippines will have to decide how we will, if we will change anything.
Thank you, Father. Question from Laila Salaver of Inquirer. Secretary Roque, does Malacañang have any directive to authorities regarding the reported cyber attacks on red tag news sites? The DICT and the Army have been linked to the cyber attacks. What does the palace think of these cyber attacks? Is this supported by government policy?
I don't know why you concluded it is being linked to government, because the ICT's mandate, in fact, is to assist in the implementation of the Cybercrimes Act, no? Together with law enforcement agencies, no? The Cybercrime Division of the NBI and the Philippine National Police. No? So it is a crime po to launch a cyber attack pursuant to the Cybercrimes Act. No? It will be investigated, and I will reiterate that it is unfair to link government offices to these cyber attacks. Pending investigation.
Secretary.
Yes. Punta naman tayo kay Mela Moras, please.
Hi, good afternoon, Secretary Roque, at sa ating panauhin po si Reverend Father Austriaco. Sir, just a follow-up question po sa question nga ni Pia Ranada. Okay lang po bang pakipaliwanag sa ating mga kababayan, gaano ba kahalaga yung state funeral? And I know it's early to tell pa, pero sa tingin niyo po ba may chance ang mailibing din sa libingan ng mga bayani si dating Pangulong Aquino?
Well, of course, kung gusto po ng pamilya na mailibing sa libingan ng bayani, talaga naman pong po pwedeng mailibing doon ang ating mga dating presidente. But that is a choice of the family. As far as yung iba mo pang tanong, sabi ko nga po, I was almost late for this press briefing because I spent the whole morning in Taguig, and I've only had a conversation with Executive Secretary Medialdea, no, on the official statement which I just read.
Opo. And sir, sa gitna nga rin po ng sitwasyon, hindi rin may iwasan yung patuloy din na bashing at politics na nasasabay nga sa kasalukuyang pangyayari. May I just ask, ano po yung mensahe ng Malacañang sa publiko? Sa gitna nga ngayon, nagluluksa pa rin yung pamilya Aquino. Ano po ang mensahe ng Malacañang sa patuloy pa rin, lalo na sa social media, sa issue po ng bashing at politika po?
Well, alam niyo po tayo mga Pilipino, meron tayong mga kaugalian. At isa sa talagang kaugalian natin ay nakikiramay pag meron pong namatayan sa pamilya. So igalang po natin itong kaugalian natin dahil alam niyo naman po, nangyayari yan sa lahat ng mga Pilipino at alam natin kung ganong kasakit ang mga pangyayaring ito.
Opo. And panghuli na lamang po, Secretary Roque, regarding sa schedule ni Pangulong Duterte, aasahan din po ba natin na magkakaroon muli siya ng isang talumpati mamaya, bukod sa pulong sa lawmakers?
Well, alam niyo naman po, kapag merong mga public events gaya ng signing of laws, no, reenactment of the signing of the laws, meron din siyang talumpati. At yan naman po will be carried live by PTV4 and RTVM.
Okay, thank you so much po, Secretary Roque, at kaya Father Austriaco po.
Maraming salamat, Mela. Punta tayo uli kay Yusek Roque, please.
Yes, Secretary, meron lang pong clarification si Laila Salaveria about dito sa unang tanong niya. Hindi po DICT, DOST, and the Army have been linked to the cyber attacks.
Well, I think it is still unfair to link any government agency dahil hindi pa naman po naiimbestigahan.
Opo, based daw po yan sa report ng Kirum Media Foundation, a Swedish digital forensic group.
Hindi ko po alam kung ano yung grupo na yon at hindi ko po alam kung talagang competent siya magbigay ng testimonya dito sa ating bansa.
Opo. Question from Creseling Catarong of SMNA News. Can you confirm yung pagpupulong ngayong araw sa Malacañang ng ilang miyembro ng Kamara at Senado kasama si Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte patungkol daw po sa bayanihan law? If meron, maliban dito, ano-anong mga agenda ang posibleng tatalakayin sa naturang pulong?
Meron po kasing reenactment of the signing of some of the bills that have become law, no? So right after that po, yung pagpupulong and the agenda as confirmed to me by our PLLO, Secretary Baby Pascual, includes Bayanihan 2, Extension, and Bayanihan 3.
Opo. Question from Jopel Peleño of DWIC. Kung ilalagay daw po sa half-mast yung flag sa palace.
As I said po, no, everything I will know after this press briefing because I arrived here po just at the nick of time to hold this press briefing. But I will give further details po.
Opo. Question ni Maricel Halili ng TV5. Yung una po niyang tanong kung tungkol po dun sa pag-visit sana daw ni Presidente or call the fan kung natawagan daw po si former President. Pero yung follow-up po niya, what do you think is the greatest legacy of PNoy? What do you want to tell the family of the late President?
Well, yun nga po, no, nakikiramay po kami at ang achievement po niya ay una-una, nanungkulan po siya sa isang demokrasya. No? At siyempre po, maaalala rin natin yung kanyang order na walang wangwang at maaalala natin siya bilang isang simpleng public servant, no, na hinalal po ng taong bayan.
Thank you, Secretary.
Maraming salamat po. Ivan Mayrina, please.
Good afternoon, Secretary and Father Nick. Dr. Father, my first question is for you, sir. Sec, if I may.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Dr. Austriaco, sir, you said that the scenario of us celebrating Christmas without masks is contingent on us preventing the entry of the Delta variant into the country. In your opinion, are we doing enough to make that happen? And yes, we are now tightening our borders. We are implementing strict quarantine protocols. But in terms of the other aspects of our COVID response, like, for example, testing, our treatment facilities, and all the other aspects of our response, are we doing enough? And what should the government be doing now should a surge caused by the Delta variant happen?
So thank you for that question. The government has successfully stopped 17 cases of the Delta variant from entering community transmission in the Philippines, and I'm grateful for that achievement. At this time, what we are learning about the Delta variant is that it has combined the worst characteristics of the variants that have come before it. The entry of the Delta variant into the Philippines would be dramatic. What you would see is that based on the numbers that we're seeing around the world, the number of infections of one COVID patient with the Delta variant rises from 2 to 3, which was the original variant from Wuhan, to about 6 to 8. So what would happen is if the Delta variant entered our beloved country, the contact tracing capacity would have to be severely enhanced to undertake the contact tracing for that kind of transmission. We also know from the United Kingdom that hospitalization rates increase by 30% if the Delta variant enters the country. This would put significant strain on our healthcare system. We already saw what happened with the Alpha variant in March. So I would hope that the national government is preparing for the worst, right? So we hope for the best. We have very strong border controls, but I would hope that the government is also preparing for the worst case scenario and to do what would we do if we detect the Delta variant in the NCR in the months ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Austriaco. Secretary Roque, sir, may we have a reaction? Kasi po kahapon, for example, si Governor Bichara ng Albay, problema pa rin po ng lalawigan niya yung testing. Tapos yung mga isolation facilities, inaayawan daw po ng mga nagpa-positive dahil hindi kagandahan. How are we in terms of preparing for the worst na binabanggit po ni Father Austriaco?
Well, kahapon po, no, binisita po natin kasama ng mga Israeli experts yung 380-bed hospital facility na modular na ginawa po in 52 days dyan po sa Luneta, and we were very impressed. The Israelis, in fact, were very impressed dahil it is state-of-the-art. It does not cost too much. It costs 200 million pesos, and it's state-of-the-art, no? At ang naging conclusion nga ng mga Israelis at pati ng mga nagpunta ron ay this is the way to prepare po for the worst with the Delta variant and the Delta Plus variants. Mas marami talagang mga hospital para pangalagaan yung mga moderate hanggang serious and critical. Ang plano nga po ng siyudad ng Maynila ay dahil meron na silang 300, hindi ko po maalala kung 340 o 380, but 300 plus bed capacity for at least moderate cases, is to declug yung mga ospital na pinatatakbo ng siyudad ng Manila, no, of the mild, asymptomatic, and moderate cases so they can concentrate on ICU. Now, this is actually the strategy on a nationwide basis. No? Number one talaga, paintingin yung ating healthcare capacity sa pamamagitan ng additional beds, lalong-lalo na ng additional ICU beds, and that has been a personal advocacy of mine to see na madagdagan pa ng mas marami pa ang ating mga ICU beds. Bagamat halos, ano bang ang figure natin? Dati 700 lang ang ating ICU bed. Ngayon, ang ginagamit ng datos na ng DOH is 1,200. No? So almost nadoble na po natin yung ating ICU bed capacity dito po sa Metro Manila. At syempre po, patuloy pa rin yung ating integration ng ating Stay Safe app. Totoo po, kinakailangan talagang paintingin ang ating contact tracing dahil yun po yung pinaka-epektibong pamamaraan na maiwasan ng hawahan, ma-isolate yung mga naging close contact ng nakakahawang sakit nito. So the process is ongoing. Meron na pong partial operation ng ating Stay Safe, but all local governments are still in the process of integrating their systems with Stay Safe.
So again, all told, Secretary, are we prepared for a possible surge caused by the Delta variant?
Well, we are doing what are necessary para po paghandaan ang pagpasok nitong mas nakakahawat, mas nakakamatay na Delta variant. Pinapainting natin ang ating kampanya na magmask, hugas, iwas. Pinapalakas natin ating contact tracing, pinaparami natin ang ating healthcare capacity, pero syempre po sa huli, panawagan na magtulungan tayo, magkaisa, dahil ibang klase po itong bagong kalaban natin na Delta at Delta Plus variants.
Dr. Austriaco, Secretary Roque, thank you, sir.
Maraming salamat, Ivan. Balik tayo kay Yusek Roque.
Yes, Secretary. From Kit Kalayag of Manila Times, kapansin-pansin na hindi na daw po nagbibigay ng update si Baguio City Mayor Benji Magalong patungkol sa contact tracing efforts ng gobyerno. Siya pa rin po ba daw ang contact tracing czar? Kung hindi, may plano ba ang presidente na mag-appoint ng papalit kay Mayor Magalong?
Si Mayor Magalong pa rin po, at alam ko po patuloy ang kanyang ginagawang training sa iba't ibang mga LGUs, no, para sa epektibong contact tracing system.
Second question niya, marami pa rin establishment, ang manual pa rin daw po yung method na gamit sa contact tracing at hindi pa rin gumagamit ng contact tracing apps. Ano po ang ginagawa ng gobyerno para makompel ang lahat na gamitin ang Stay Safe app?
Nasagot ko na po yan. We're in the process of integrating all existing systems with Stay Safe.
Okay. Ano daw po ang plano ng gobyerno para mapaigting pa ang contact tracing sa bansa ngayong nakapasok na ang Delta variant?
Naghahanda po tayo ng mga contact tracers na additional din, no? Bukod dun sa meron na tayo. At yan nga po siguro ay kabahagi ng pag-uusapan ukol po sa Bayanihan 2 at Bayanihan 3.
Opo, Secretary Roque, may request lang po, pasensya na, yung Malabon Youth. Since non-contact sport daw po ang classification ng volleyball, kung pwede na ba daw po itong i-allow ng IATF?
Well, tatanong ko po yan sa IATF, no? Outdoors non-contact sports is allowed, pero hindi ko po alam talaga kung non-contact sport ang volleyball, kasi ang alam ko, may mga pagkakataon nagkakaroon po yan ng contact.
Okay, thank you, Secretary.
Maraming salamat po. Pia Gutierrez, please. Pia Gutierrez, please.
Hi, sir. Magandang hapon.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, sir. Magandang hapon. Sir, can you hear me? Apo.
Yes, I can
Sir,
hear you.
in
Good
terms
afternoon.
of percentages, Okay. Hello, sir. Can you hear me
Go
now?
ahead. Go ahead. In
Okay, sir.
terms of
Sir, dun sa
percentages,
plus 10 areas, in terms of percentages, how much of our vaccines will be allocated to these areas, sir?
sa ngayon hindi ko po alam, no, kasi dumami po yan eh. NCR plus 8 plus 10. So it will be a higher percentage, no. So I will clarify that po because right now I have no information.
Opo, kasi you mentioned before the NCR is 32.2%.
Yes.
Possible po ba, sir, na parang mabago din yung reallocation dito sa NCR plus 8 to accommodate ito pong pagdagdag natin ng mga areas na merong priority?
Hindi naman po, no, kasi talaga itong bagong prioritization is also subject to more supplies, no. At nakita naman natin sa presentasyon ni Dr. Father na talagang importante na ma-attain ang containment or population protection sa lalong mabilis sa panahon dito sa Metro Manila Plus dahil ito yung maganda nga yung ginamit niyang illustration, parang ink na kumakalat, no. Pag napigil natin yung pagkalat ng ink sa pinanggagalingan talaga, mapapababa natin ang numero in the entire country.
Pero sir, gano'n tayo ka-flexible pagdating sa allocation ng vaccines? If we see another area na merong mataas din po na cases, possible po madagdag siya doon sa prioritization, or kung isa sa mga areas na ito sa plus 10 or plus 8, bumaba yung cases, pwede ba siyang maalis sa prioritization? How does it work, sir?
It is being reviewed regularly kung ano yung mga areas na may surge kasi talagang kabahagian ng strategiya, mas maraming bakuna sa mga lugar na nag-surge. So patuloy po ang pagmamonitor natin sa daily attack rate, sa 2-week average attack rate at saka sa healthcare utilization rates ng iba't ibang mga lugar.
Sir, on another topic, sir, kasi Filipino Nurses United said that the government should set aside yung unobligated funds from Bayanihan 2 to pay for their benefits and their compensation, particularly yun nga po sa healthcare workers. So, what does the palace have to say about this? At lalo na po ngayon na pag-uusapan na mamaya ni President Duterte with the leaders ng House and the Senate yung Bayanihan 2. Is this something that would be accommodated itong request nila?
That's in fact possible. It is not improbable dahil ang naging position po ng Executive Secretary is we will source fundings to pay for the prospective salary adjustment pursuant to the PACI's decision at posible po na magkaroon ng supplemental funding sa pamamagitan po ng Bayanihan 3 o di naman kaya further realignment of the funds intended for Bayanihan 2 for this purpose. So anything is possible po because Congress has plenary powers of legislation.
Okay, sir. Sir, last question na lang po. Has the President taken his second dose po of the vaccine?
Lagi ko nakakalimutan tanungin. Mamaya isusulat ko na talaga yan. Tanungin ang second dose. Kasi pag nakikita kami, dami namin pinag-uusapan. Nagagalit na nga sa akin yung mga kasama ko pag nagpupunta kami ng Davao dahil umaalis na kami ng Davao ng midnight na halos, no, because sa mga dami ng tanong. So, mamaya talaga I will put a note to myself. Second dose. Okay?
Alright, sir. Thank you po.
Maraming salamat po. Yes, Yusek Roque. Thank you, Pia. Yusek Roque again, please.
Opo. From Tina Mendez ng Philippine Star, may reports daw po that flyers are being distributed saying that vaccines being administered in certain areas are fake. Some people decided not to pursue their vaccination at SM MOA in Pasay City today after getting the flyers. What is the government doing about this disinformation? Will the government allow this to continue, further fueling distrust and hesitancy on vaccine versus COVID-19?
Kalokohan po yan. Lahat po ng bakuna, ligtas at epektibo. At yung mga nagpapakalat po ng ganyang mga fake news, titignan po natin kung anong po pwedeng gawin nila dahil tandaan nyo po, we are in a state of public emergency.
Thank you, Secretary.
Okay, maraming salamat. Punta naman tayo kay Melo Acuña, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Secretary. Para po sa inyo, nabanggit po ni Secretary Carl Kendrick Chua kahapon sa 42nd National Conference of Employers na meron lang in place na recovery programs at kailangan na lamang na ipatupad ito upang makaangat ang ekonomiya. Would you be more specific as to the strategy of the government to make this recovery programs work at the soonest possible time?
Hindi naman po nagbabago yan, no? Yung provision ng fiscal and monetary support to the tune of trillions, yung pagpapalawak po ng ating vaccination program at saka siyempre yung pagpapainting po ng ating minimum health protocols at yung ating tinatawag na prevention, isolation, detection and treatment protocols, no? Dahil kinakailangan makontrol ang virus, mapababa ang numero, mapagpatuloy ang bakuna nang maiwasan ang magpagkakasakit, at pag nagawa po natin ito, mas magbubukas ang ekonomiya na magreresulta sa mas malagong ekonomiya.
Meron na po bang statement ng Malacañang sa pagkasawi ng 3 piloto at 3 crew ng bumagsak na Black Hawk samantalang merong proficiency flight kagabi sa gitnang Luzon?
Wala pa po akong balita dyan, but I will verify and come up with a statement in the afternoon after verification po.
Thank you very much. Para po kay Father Nick Ostoyaco, magandang hapon po, Father Nick. Nice to see you again. May isa lamang po akong tanong sapagkat kahapon nabanggit doon sa National Conference of Employers na isang safety risk ang paggamit ng face shield sa loob ng manufacturing plants. May I have your idea kung makasasama bang magkaroon pa ng face shield sa loob ng mga pabrika na mayroong manual na ginagawa yung ating mga manggagawa?
So as Secretary Harry pointed out, there is scientific evidence that supports the use of face shields, eye protection actually, to decrease transmission of the virus. For various particular situations, you have to have a risk-benefit analysis. So you have to decide, is the risk and the benefit, which one works out? And then the IATF has the responsibility of discerning and deciding what those relative risk and benefits are for a particular workplace, especially, for example, in a workplace where you need other face protections for something else.
I see. But will this not in a way affect the productivity of our workers in the manufacturing sector?
Well, again, I'm not sure. To answer your question, it will depend on the particular sector, the particular factory that's involved, because there could be adjustments made to the manufacturing and production line that compensates for the use of face shields.
Thank you very much, Father. Thank you very much, Secretary Harry.
Thank you,
Good
Melo.
afternoon.
Back to you, Roque, please.
Secretary, yun na po yung lahat ng nakuha nating question ngayong araw.
Okay, maraming salamat kay Father Ostoyaco. Sir, wag kayong magsasawa sa aming mga imbitasyon, pero maraming salamat po. Maraming salamat kay Yusek Roque, maraming salamat sa lahat ng ating kasama sa Malacañang Press Corps. Sa ngalan po ng inyong Presidente, Rodrigo Roa Duterte, ito po ang inyong Spokesperson Roque nagsasabing nakikiramay muli kami po sa pamilyang Aquino at maraming salamat sa serbisyo niyo po, Mr. President Noynoy Aquino. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat.